Change of Heart is one of those records that is part of the legend of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Like these were dudes who were destined for greatness because they just had it in them to create music that was for the moment, that could be foretelling what was going to come 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the pike. They knew how to just get in a studio with somebody and get results. What's going on, everybody? You're right on time for another ride on the Groove Line with your host, Chris Stevens. Hopefully, you all are doing well out there. It's Friday. It's the weekend. We like to party around here, so we're gonna go ahead and get the party started. Earlier this week, excuse me, I did a early composition of Baby Faces because, as we know now, Baby Faces getting a documentary, and that's wonderful. And you know who else needs a documentary, a book, a podcast series, something to talk about their great work over the last 40 plus years? Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. And we're digging back into the early days of their catalog. And we've done an SOS Band episode before, so no, that's a dead giveaway. That's not what we're talking about today. We are talking about the Italian American disco group Change, which was founded by Jacques Fred Petrus from the island of Guadeloupe, actually. I actually have a Jacques Fred Petrus episode in the tuck that I'm probably going to drop at some point before the end of the year or early next year. But anyway, Change dropped their fifth album, Change of Heart, in April of 1984. The title track was the lead single the previous month in March, and it ascended to number 7 on the R&B charts. Now, this is an important record from the perspective of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis really knew how to work magic in the studio because these were guys of the technological age. You know, Jimmy was 24, 25 when they were working on his record, and Terry was like 27 or 28. So these were young guys. Granted, I think we look at age a lot differently now than people used to back then. Like people looked at 30 and 40, I mean, as being super old or what have you. I mean, even the youngsters of today look at people like my age, 44, looking old. And in some degree, they're right. But Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis were rookies in the studio, but they were still technical wizards and top flight musicians who had been playing since they were young. So the way the story goes is when they went to produce this album, they also produced it with a guy named Timmy Allen. So they go to start on the record and they notice there's a TR-808, but they thicken the drums on Change of Heart, that's the title track, with a DMX drum machine. I love that we can talk about drum machines sort of like, you know, and you get like chills, you know, you get kind of like goosebumps like The Rock likes to do whenever he goes to a WWE ring. The song itself, the lyrical content, the composition, it's a breakup song. It's another one of those upbeat breakup songs that you can't beat with a stick. Like, yeah, I'm leaving you, but I'm going to be dancing out the door. Well, I'm gone. And Deborah Cooper is the lead singer on this song. I love the second verse, how it starts off, because I sub my zodiac sign in there because I'm a Libra and Libras are known to be sensitive. And what Deborah sings on Change of Heart is, I would never let you down. So you began to use me. You would always prey on my female sensitivity. And I just sub in Libra. You know, you will always prey on my Libra sensitivity. And you know that. There are a lot of songs from the early 80s and the middle part of the 1980s that feel like Friday night, which is why a lot of these old school DJ shows on certain contemporary stations still do numbers, because a lot of the Gen X's, a lot of the younger baby boomers, they remember getting out, getting ready, getting dressed to go out on a Friday night to go party or go out on a date or just go kick it with their homeboys or homegirls in their 80s. And this is when these kids started to get cars, like, you know, back before Cash for Clunkers took every damn car off the road. Oh my God. But yeah, you know, you could buy a hoopty back then for like $100, $200, a working one. So it wouldn't be a surprise in the middle part of the 80s, as I grew to be of, you know, understanding what the world, that there was a world around me at 3 and 4 years old in 84 and 85, that you could see kids that, you know, were older than you, that went to high school with your sister, or, you know, just were neighborhood kids, you know, blasting music from the most rustiest and crustiest of cars. But back then, the cars might have rusted out, but the actual engines and transmissions lasted. That's why there were so many cars that just have like these rusty holes in them. And they were, you'd see somebody driving an old like an old Ford Falcon or a Chrysler New Yorker or even a even an AMC, even the AMC. For some strange reason, I remember seeing a lot of AMC Hornet sedans in Wilmington, Delaware, in the at the middle part in the tail end of the 1980s. I don't know why I remember the AMC Hornet so much, but I knew a lot of people around the city at that time had AMC Hornets. I don't know. But the point is, they have these new inventions in 1984. I don't know if they were brand new, but they were new enough, called cassette tapes. And you put your cassette tape in a cassette deck and you listen to your music. And if you heard Change of Heart blasting as you were getting ready to go out on a Friday night, you were guaranteed to have a good time, I imagine, in 1984 in the summer, because that record was out. That record was hot in the summer of 1984. So Change of Heart is one of those records that is part of the legend of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Like, these were dudes who were destined for greatness because they just had it in them to create music that was for the moment, that could be foretelling what was going to come 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the pike. They knew how to just get in a studio with somebody and get results, which is what a producer is supposed to do. If you're charged with the task of producing somebody, you better produce good music. You got to produce something worth giving to the label and saying, yeah, we can send this to radio. Yeah, we can sign off on a video for this. Something. And nobody did it better at that point in the 80s than Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Babyface and Daryl Simmons and L.A. Reid were on their way. But before those guys got started, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis were the hot young producers of the moment. Well, them and Kashif, God rest his soul, Kashif, man, one of my favorites. I need to do a Kashif episode on here very, very soon. Change of Heart, a fun record to listen to. It feels like Friday night. There are a lot of records like that in that space of the early 80s that just feel like Friday night. And these shows just last. I mean, like, for instance, Classics 1079 out of Philly with DJ Bent Rock and DJ Tactics with the classic spins on Fridays and Saturday nights. You're always going to hear some good early 80s R&B, electro, boogie, hip hop from those guys. And it's a good way to diversify your musical palette if you're trying to get interested. Listen to some old school DJs on like these Radio 1 stations and even these iHeart stations that still have like a contemporary R&B presence. Listen to those shows on the weekends, especially in the evenings. You will learn some stuff about music that you never thought you knew before, and you'll be glad you did. And that's going to do it for this ride on the Groove Line, a quick little Friday Express. Greatly appreciate y'all as always. Contact information will be in the description below. Be sure to subscribe and tap that notification bell so you're notified of all the new videos that drop on this channel. Don't forget to like and comment on these videos as well, because I talk back in the comments. We have good discussions, and we always have fun. So thank you guys for watching. Monday, cross your fingers. Cross your fingers. I may have an interview with the co-founder of one of the top bands of the 70s and 80s on this podcast Monday. That's a teaser. It's a prayerful teaser. It all works out. Hopefully it all works out. But yeah, cross your fingers, pray, meditate, whatever it is that you do, because I may have something special for you guys leading into Thanksgiving. And I'm very excited to share it with you if it goes down. So thank you guys for riding with me on the Groove Line. And until the next time we ride, y'all enjoy your weekend, and may you find the groove, or may the groove find you.